I've spent a little over 100 days now with MSI's 322 URX 32-inch OLED monitor, and it has been an incredibly mixed bag of positive and negative experiences. And I can say right now, based on what has happened with it so far, I wouldn't recommend it at the moment. Maybe in the future, but not really right now. It is by far the best looking monitor I have ever used for any period of time, both from a picture standpoint as well as from an aesthetic standpoint. It's got thin bezels, branding on it is not too loud, but it's also the most annoying monitor I have ever used. And it's not worth the MSRP, which last I checked was $1,300. I didn't pay quite that much when I bought it, which I'll get into a little bit later, but I'll run through the pros that I've noticed from it as well as the cons. So it's a QD-OLED display, which looks amazing. I believe it's what they refer to as the 3rd gen panel, and there are some 4th gen panels out now, but I believe so far it's just 27-inch versions. This one, again, is a 32-inch QD-OLED, 240 hertz monitor. It's incredibly responsive, truly better for any kind of games than I will probably ever fully utilize. The size of it, 32-inch, is honestly perfect for me. I had a 1440p monitor that was 27 inches before, and I found it to be a little bit small over time for what I was using it for, writing code, editing video, things like that. But 32, I think, is perfect for all of the above. You can very easily put things side by side no matter what they are when you need to. It's really great for single screen productivity, and of course it's beautiful for consuming content as well. You know, inky blacks that are standard with a good OLED, and just no complaints there whatsoever. I have really enjoyed it, and at the price that I got it at, which was $1,000 even, I think it's okay for that. Although honestly, even that, with the experience that I've had, has felt pretty steep, because it's been an experience of using what has felt like an incomplete product. What I mean by that is, previously any monitor I've ever had would go to sleep when I was done and wake up when I was starting a new task. No matter, you know, how many computers I might have plugged into it for different things, it would just do that at least decently well. And then when I was not using it anymore, it would go to sleep, the little standby light would be on, and that would be it. On this monitor, if you don't turn it off all the way with the button every time, there's an electronically controlled switch that is periodically searching for input all the time, and you can hear it clicking constantly. It's not like every second, but every couple of minutes at least, you'd hear it click on and off a couple times. And as far as I can tell, this is expected behavior, and I'm not sure why. The power button that is on it controls that switch, but as I said, it seems to be an electronically controlled switch. So the power button doesn't actually actuate power on and off every time either, and so you have to be careful with that, because you might think you turned it off, but you didn't. Or you might think you turned it on, but it's still off. It's really annoying. And you can turn on things like HDMI CEC, which should automatically switch it all the way off if you're using an HDMI input. But the problem with that is, if you're doing a gaming PC, which is what this is truly built for, most of those don't use HDMI CEC. And if you want the full power of the monitor, which in this case it includes, UHBR 20, the full 80 gigabits per second transmission speed over DisplayPort 2.1, that's over DisplayPort 2.1, which is not HDMI. And the HDMI does not support that same bandwidth. So that HDMI CEC switching on and off automatically doesn't work with its main intended use case. It would with a console or something if you plugged one in with an HDMI cable, and that's fine. But the majority of people going to the lengths of spending this much money on this kind of monitor, it doesn't make sense. A couple other annoyances I've found: it offers 98 watts of power delivery. It offers 98 watts of power delivery over the USB-C cable, which is a touch higher than the previous generations. However, it's turned off by default. Excuse my dog. It's turned off by default, and I can see why that would make sense. Maybe they're worried about people plugging the USB-C cable into just something that doesn't need power and that causing some kind of an issue. That's fine, but I would expect some kind of instruction on that, maybe a little leaflet in the box or something, because it's one of the selling points on the box, 98 watts of power delivery. but when you plug in a laptop, it doesn't do anything other than say, hey, I have a USB-C device. It doesn't receive any power, which doesn't make sense. You know, maybe they could make it so that when it detects that for the first time, it could prompt you, do you want to turn on 98 watt power delivery? That could be fine, but by default, that's not what happens. The other buttons, I already talked about what I didn't like about the power button. The other buttons are similar. They often don't seem to receive the input given. Oftentimes they don't seem to do anything, to be honest. And the layout of the buttons is fine. It's a little cluster of them on the back with power button by default on the left, input by default on the right, and then a little navigational nub in the middle. And that's a fine layout. And I think at least some of those are reprogrammable, but again, they don't seem to work nearly as often as I press them, like far less than 50% of the time that I press them, which is really concerning. And the ports that are on the back of it, this one might be a little more nitpicky, but I really wish that they were higher up on the back of the monitor, because they're in like the bottom third. And when you're doing high-speed data transmission over a high-quality DisplayPort or HDMI cable, chances are that cable is going to be thicker, and it's difficult to turn the cable at what feels a comfortable angle if you're using a monitor stand and trying to hide those cables with where they position those ports. And this one is probably not going to be as common for a lot of people. I primarily do what I consider my personal or work computing on a Mac, and then I'm primarily doing gaming on a Windows PC. In Mac OS, and this I believe is a Mac problem, not a problem with this monitor in particular, but if you tell macOS to use variable refresh rate on this monitor, the way that the two of them communicate with each other produces flickering in the light, and it's like you can see the entire screen going down to lower refresh rates when it's not calling for a higher one in macOS. It doesn't happen like that in Windows, and I have heard of that happening before with other monitors. But so Apple likely has some work to do there, but Macs are prevalent enough now that I would think that there would at least have been some testing done with that. And it doesn't seem like there has, because that just didn't function appropriately in my opinion. With the MSRP of last year's model, the 321 URX, which really the only difference between the two is the new one has 8 more watts of power delivery, and it has the higher bandwidth DisplayPort, which unless you have an RTX 4090 or 5090, sorry, from NVIDIA, or maybe a 5080, truly, you're not gonna take advantage of that. As a matter of fact, I don't have that. I more got this for the future proofing, I guess, which is a dumb reason to buy a monitor, but that's fine. So really, for the extra 30 to 40% cost, you're not getting that amount of extra value. What I've experienced with it is that overall, it's a pretty good monitor. Truthfully, it looks great, and when it's working, when it's not constantly prompting me to run the OLED preserving features, which it does like 30 seconds after I turn it on almost every time, which is so annoying, and it makes me feel like I can't use it safely. It makes me worry about it, even with the 3-year burn-in warranty or whatever it comes with. So that's another negative. Am I glad that I have it? Yes. Would I have paid full price for it? No. I got it from MSI's website on the day it released, and I theorize that they duplicated the product page for the previous year model and forgot to update the price, because I got it for less than MSRP, and then the price on it went up to MSRP like a day or two later, maybe not even that long. But I feel like it's a perfect example though of what we're experiencing in technology in general right now, which is such a need for companies to feel like they have to have something new to sell every single year, that they half-bake everything no matter how expensive it is. I have never had more bugs and problems with a monitor by far, even though this one outprices in a negative way my previous most expensive monitor by a factor of a few times. Same thing with my iPhone. I have a 16 Pro. I have never had a more buggy phone ever, and this is one of the more pricey ones I've had. And it is just unbelievable to me that these expensive, mainstream, almost necessity devices that so many of us have are coming out of the gate half-baked, and they never finish them before they come out with the next one. No matter how long I have my iPhone or this monitor, I have zero confidence that they'll get to a point where those bugs that I'm seeing go away. And that's so frustrating to me, and I don't know that there's anything I can do about it. I'd say vote with your wallet, but realistically, 5 people will hear that and go, yeah, and the other however many people that hear that will go, well, but I need this and that, and I just have to deal with it, and that's fine, whatever. That's obviously the choice that I make most of the time. But anyway, that is the reason why I want to make a technology video today. That I feel like that's something important to recognize. But in any case, I think my camera's about to die, so I hope that you found this video useful. Sorry it went very long, and I truthfully don't even know if I'll edit it at all, but leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Tell me what monitors you've really liked or disliked. Tell me what technology issues you've been having, and let's start a conversation about it. I would love to hear your thoughts. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.